I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it. I didn't believe in it. I never gave it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.
This has been a long time coming. We got Robert Bitto back. Robert, what's happening? Welcome back.
Thanks for having me once again. It's always a pleasure.
I look up like I should just have him on every like 3 weeks.
Yeah, hey, I'm up for that. Yeah, there's always something to talk about.
So why did I just mute myself? So talk about the eclipse. You said you wanted to get on that. I want to hear all about it because I just listened to a podcast on the way home about it. So I want to hear what you had going on with it. Predictions and whatnot.
Here I am in San Diego. I was one of the, we're the first to get the eclipse in the United States, right? We're the farthest southwest. And it was only like 45% here or something. It was like around 50%. It was no big deal. I went to the beach and, okay, for your astute listeners, I'm near the 33rd parallel and the height of the eclipse was at 11:11 a.m. How do you like those numbers, son?
It's kind of freaky.
Yeah. But I went to the beach. It was, late morning. I went to the beach and there were not a whole lot of people there. I was surprised the temperature really, went down. Even though it was just a partial eclipse. But that week, which was last weekend, my show I did on Mexico Unexplained, I talked about the eclipse and what the ancients in Mexico thought of the eclipse. And I looked at 3 civilizations, the Zapotec, the Maya, and the Aztec. And all 3 of those civilizations could predict eclipses. And then they have their myths and legends that went along with the eclipses. So, and I think that's not unique to Mexico, of course. Every culture, I believe, has myths connected to eclipses, and other cultures could predict eclipses too. So it seems amazing to us because we don't, the average person doesn't know much about astronomy and things like that, or calendrics. But, I guess if you know, and these people knew, so they can predict eclipses.
I think my favorite eclipse story is probably the Columbus one, where he was wearing out his welcome and they told him he's going to have to leave. But he's like, oh, the sun's about to disappear. And you're like, oh, God, just get this guy some more grain.
Yeah, well, if you could predict eclipses and your neighbors couldn't, that gave you power. Your empire, your kingdom was mightier if you had, better astronomers who could predict things like this. So, yeah, there was, as far as the Maya go, people know that they were stargazers and they had this big, awesome calendar and everything. And they predicted an eclipse that would go across the Maya area on July 7th, 1991. And they were accurate. So in their eclipse tables, they predicted that an eclipse would happen over their homeland 1,000 years after their civilization collapsed. So that was pretty interesting. They could predict the eclipse, but they couldn't predict their own demise.
I wonder how far out the eclipses will go before the sun, the moon moves out like an inch a year. Like how many more millennia until that doesn't apply anymore? It's got to
Well, depends on if you believe that's what's happening, right?
Yeah,
Hey, this is a paranormal show, right?
it is.
So yeah,
We
some
go
people
everywhere.
think it's the dark side or whatever, and some people would say that the proof that it's not the moon is that these people have been predicting these eclipses with incredible accuracy, and nothing has moved. Either way, I mean, you can go with that however way you want.
These comments are killing me. My wife was like, "Do I have to cook pizza?" I'm like, "What?"
I can't see any comments, so yeah. What's that supposed to be?
I turned the oven on and came back here.
It's your wife,
Hmm
daughter. Okay.
That's hilarious. Another one. I happen to listen to a lot of shows about eclipses this week, but the one in 33 AD with the correlation with the crucifixion, that's the craziest one, hands down. But they said it went 3 hours back then, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, I heard that too. And it's weird because I'd never heard of that before, except for like in the past 2 weeks.
Hmm
Um,
It was a
um,
big deal, like in the '90s. They were talking all about it. I remember hearing. Well, maybe it's just when I started listening to, coming online after that '94 eclipse. But
oh, well, you're in the Bible Belt too. They talk about that stuff.
right here on the buckle of the Bible Belt, right next to the holes where the prong goes in. That's how far down I am. But did any of your did you predict? Well, you obviously could predict the eclipse. Did you any of your predictions around the eclipse come true? I know you do that every year.
No, well, on Facebook, I have annual predictions.
Hmm
And yeah, there was nothing that I predicted with the eclipse. I predict a whole bunch of other things. And it's all in good fun.
Well, what'd you
And
get?
it's funny whenever I do come out with those, or when I do a summary at the end of the year and I show how uncannily well I predicted, different things. I always get people contacting me wanting private readings and stuff, and it's all in good fun. That's all. I'm not or anything.
They
When
want
I
some
was in
private
high
readings.
school, when I was in high school, I had a group of people convinced that I was a psychic. And then I felt so bad about it. I came clean. I said, look, I'm a fraud. Now, I was 16, right? And I said, no, I'm just really observant. And because I would say, he's going to go to prom with her. And, I would be saying different things. This teacher, this is what's going to happen. And the things were coming true, but I was very observant, right? And then I said to these people, no, I'm not a psychic. I'm a fraud. I, just totally came clean. And there were 3 girls who refused to believe me. And when I called myself a fraud, they said, no, it's not your intuition. It's not your observation. It's that you're really a psychic. And that, you're saying that it's your intuition and your observation when you're really a psychic. So I was like, that taught me a long time ago that people really want to believe, that
Hmm
phrase that we hear all the time in the paranormal community. I want to believe. Yeah, I think there's a predisposition with people wanting to believe. And no, I don't give readings. There was a woman from Oklahoma one time who contacted me and she said, I'm so concerned about my daughter. She's 17 and I want her to find the right man. Can you look into her future to see if she's going to find the right man? But see, what I've learned from first being a charlatan in high school from way back when, people are looking for reassurance. And I think that's what a lot of fortune tellers and psychics and stuff provide. They provide some reassurance.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was going to ask about how if you had skills or you were just making educated guesses, like you were saying. It reminds me a lot of that show Psyched, where he was just really smart. I think it actually took place in San Diego.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
I never even heard of that.
Oh man.
I don't have
Well,
his stuff.
It's about 10 years old, but his stepdad was his foster dad is a detective, and he was just really smart, and he taught him how to look for signs in detective work. And so he would go to a scene and look at 4 or 5 different things. Of course, it would highlight it on the screen, and he would do like Ace Ventura does, just start rattling off what happened. Like, how'd you know that? I'm a psychic, but he never was. He was just really smart. Reminded me of that when you said that. I wonder where that did take place. I think it was San Diego.
Right. Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. Yeah, like I said, people. I mean, I really could have charged people for readings and things like that.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, it's all in good fun. Even though, one of the best things that I'm good at predicting is earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Now that seems weird, but I have a special way of predicting this sort of stuff. That's almost spot on. And I can't tell you the day or the time or anything. I can tell you where the earthquake is going to be and in moderate intensity, whatever, and give you an approximate time of year. And it's an intuitive approach. And yeah, so anyway,
How do
I
you
don't know.
predict? How do you predict the earthquake? Can you divulge your secrets?
It's basically
Because that's a big deal.
Well, no, you're right, but I'm a repository of facts. All these
Mhm.
facts coming in, and I seem to have a knack for retaining a lot of stuff. And
Same.
so, if I'm retaining a lot of this information, it almost becomes intuition. When you say, okay, what area didn't have an earthquake for a while? And earthquakes happen kind of in clusters, and
Mhm.
there are certain places where earthquakes do happen, like the Ring of Fire around the Pacific.
Mhm.
So then it's somewhat intuitive for me because I've gathered all the facts, and the facts are in my head somewhere. And so then I come out with a guess.
Mhm.
The guesses are usually right for the earthquakes and volcanoes. So, but it's not fine tuned at all. I can't
Yeah.
say on April 16th there's going to be a 7.2 earthquake in the Galapagos Islands. I can't say.
That makes sense because earthquakes just gather up a pressure, then it springs loose, and that's what causes it. So it's got to look for what hasn't had it in a long time.
And then people are so wowed by that. But
Mhm.
then there's some things that I predict that are just beyond my own comprehension. Like I think it was 2017 where one of my predictions in the beginning of the year was Oprah will go blonde. And then later in that year, she played a witch in a movie, and she was wearing a blonde wig. And it was weird because the movie hadn't even started filming when her
Mhm.
part, whatever, she wasn't blonde yet when I made that prediction. It was strange.
I remember
But
that called the Witches, Anne Hathaway.
yeah. So, yeah, sometimes it's weird what sticks to the wall when I throw on, the jump.
What made you predict that one though? That's
Have no idea. And I predicted Trump would win the presidency
Mhm.
in December of 2015. That was before he was even the nominee. And if I would have bet in Las Vegas, it was like 200 to 1 odds that he was going to be president. So I don't know.
I think it was 200 to 1 odds until that Wednesday morning when everybody was like, nobody believed it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
Do you
the prediction stories.
do you ever delve into the law of attraction, the manifestation kind of thing?
Yeah, and that's been kind of weird for me too. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is kind of strange. Yeah,
That that's my woo woo. That's where I get into the like how am I feel like I got powers sometimes.
well, don't we all have powers, really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
I think
depends on
so.
how you look at things, right? I mean,
Have you heard of the CIA document they released that proved that thoughts turn into particles?
No.
It was it was like a big CIA classified thing from like the 60s or 70s that they proved that if you thought about something enough, it turned into an actual particle, and tulpa kind of thing happened. And that's how the science of manifestation works. I got down a rabbit hole this morning. You'd think I was doing ayahuasca or something, but I was just on TikTok.
But thoughts create reality. I mean, you could even go biblical. And if you look at the Bible from a different standpoint, that it's not secular history, that these are not real people that are being talked about and stuff. And if these are states of consciousness, I am the way, the truth, and the light. There's a lot in the Bible, if you read it a certain way, that talks about the law of attraction and manifestation. And it's really interesting.
Oh yeah, there's if you look at read Neville Goddard, he quotes a lot of what you just said. Or listen to Neville Goddard. That's
because Yahweh, Yad-He, Vav-He, those are the letters in the Hebrew alphabet that make up God. And it literally means the essence of me. I am. The I amness. So, and you know what? That is the only thing that we're really certain of in the world. Everything could be a simulation, is Bigfoot real? Okay, we'll tie it into the show. Is Bigfoot real? Well, we don't know. UFOs, what can you really know? Is Bobby Dizzle your real name? Are you really in Alabama? But the only thing you can really know in this world is I am. I am. That's all that you can know.
Yep.
You know you're existing. That's it. I don't even know if you're existing. I know I exist.
Yeah, don't get down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I don't know. Anyway, so you could say there's a lot you can talk about with that.
That particular thing, things start working out personally for me sometimes, and I start thinking that, am I the only one here, and this whole thing is just my video game?
People say that. I mean, people from Elon Musk to the Dilbert comic guy, what's his name, Scott Adams. He famously says that we're all living in a simulation, and I don't know. Could be a type of simulation.
Yeah, I think it's like a broad definition.
That could be right. And that could explain a lot of things like anomalies that you talk about on your show or that I talk about. Especially like Bigfoot. And, I caught part of that interview that you had with those two guys. I forget their names.
Oh, last week?
Yeah, where they were talking about the tracks that disappeared and stuff like that. Well, how do you explain that? Is Bigfoot some being that comes in and out of existence? And I mentioned, put a comment in your show. Why are Bigfoot researchers so divided? Because it seems like the Bigfoot community, it's either, you got the star being people here, you got the cryptid people, it's a living, breathing animal like a bear or something. And then you have the interdimensional creature folks, and they butt heads like no other subgroup in paranormal investigations that I've seen.
I like to pit them against each other.
But you know what I think it is? I thought about it after I saw your show. I thought, okay, now try to answer why. And I think because a lot of Bigfoot researchers, most of them are not academics. They're ornery backwoodsmen. And ornery backwoodsmen are, they stick to their guns, they have their beliefs, and there ain't nobody going to tell them otherwise, and you know what I mean? They're very independent. you know, a lot of them are living off the grid in the mountains and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of that going on out there.
So then that type of personality is probably not going to be open to other, you know, competing views, especially if they think that they've experienced something that, and that's the way they experienced it, and that's it. There's no other explanation. You know, you get that backwoods element of their personalities too, I think. And it's like, yeah, so that's the recipe for the confrontation.
You know,
So,
oddly enough, the ornery backwoods ones are the ones that always believe in the woo.
yeah, because,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I've seen too, because they see that the tracks disappear.
yeah, that's the one that they've seen.
Right. Or they know what it takes to survive in the harsh environments or whatever, and or how to get up a mountain, you know, and they know that an animal can't go 300 yards in a, you know, a snowfield in 10 minutes or whatever. You know, they know that stuff.
They disappear.
If you took me out there, I wouldn't know that sort of detail that they would know. And then they know their land too. That's another thing. You know their land like the back of their hand.
That's a big one.
Yeah. So that's what makes them, you know, and then a lot of these guys, it's funny. I've noticed this for years. A lot of the Bigfoot researchers who have boots on the ground, who have experienced them on their own land and all that, you know, the ornery backwoodsmen, they don't like academics. They don't. I don't like the people who just study Bigfoot and write books and go on the History Channel or the Discovery Channel or whatever. They don't like those types.
A lot of them say something like, I always say the woo chose me. Like, it just seems to be the factor that keeps coming up from people that have the most, dare I say, legit sightings. And it seems like the ones who are anti the woo that go straight to hair follicles and, you know, where's the bodies are the agnostic kind of people, the real hard. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. I think it's great because I always have the anthropologist on to like eating a sorbet between a meal, between dishes, you know, just to clean my palate out. So I like when people go, you know, the apers, just to hear their side of the story. But I just, at this point, no bodies, no, you know, no, the tracks disappear. Something has to happen. They've got to do something. Got to go somewhere.
So yeah, and you know, to tie it back to Mexico, for those people who have never heard me talk, I have done research and I've never seen them myself, and I don't own land in Mexico or anything like that. But there are two Bigfoot creatures, and the ancient Maya believed that one, the Sisimite, was just like a deer or something in the forest. The Sisimite is a skinny, more shy Bigfoot creature. But they did believe that all creatures in the forest had magical abilities. So the Sisimite also was a magical creature in addition to being a flesh and blood creature.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny. You said about Mexico Bigfoot. I posted a picture, you know, on all the Bigfoot groups about you being on here, Mexico Unexplained. And somebody put the Bigfoot map from BFRO and said, there's no Bigfoot in Mexico. I'm like, because it just stops in Canada, you know, and doesn't go any further. I'm like, dude, get out of here. I think he was joking, but the first time I had to like there's plenty of them.
Well, you know, people don't realize that. People, like I've said many times on many different shows, people think of Mexico and they think of Clint Eastwood movies, you know, deserts, or, you know, their own experience may be a beach resort. You know, let's go to Mexico for 1 week, and then they camp out in Cancun or Puerto Vallarta or someplace.
Yeah, they don't get inside.
They don't even go into the country, really. They stay in the tourist places. But there are the Sisamite, which I just mentioned, lives in the jungle areas of southeastern Mexico and Central America, into Honduras and Nicaragua, in the mountains. But then there's a bigger, buff, you know, like a Bigfoot you would see in Oregon or Northern California, called the Tlatlacas. And he lives in the central mountains of Mexico, and 4 mountains in Mexico have glaciers on them. And people don't think of snow-capped peaks when they think of Mexico or endless pine or oak forests, but they exist. And the Cuatlacas, that is that creature's territory. And people believe that also, again, it's the same sort of debate as in the United States. Is it an unknown animal, a cryptid, or is it some sort of internet dimensional being, or is it connected with UFOs? Down there too in Mexico, they have this line of research that looks into the UFO Bigfoot connection. So it's the same thing here. But for people, I was on a show last week called The Typical Skeptic. You guys should check out Rob.
Oh yeah.
He's a good guy. And we were talking about Bigfoot. And I told him, I said, you know what state in the United States has never had a Bigfoot sighting? You know what state that is?
Me?
Yeah.
It had to be Hawaii.
Exactly. Okay, you came up with it like that. Most people will go, Kansas? Well,
Kansas.
And, yeah, or some other place. People don't get that it's kind of a trick question. Okay, so there are no Bigfoot sightings in Hawaii. So what does that tell us? That could be the key to unlock everything. Because if Bigfoot is a figment of your imagination, then why hasn't it been spotted in Hawaii? Well,
I bet they got something else.
Does that mean that it's a cryptid, that it's a real animal that has a range and a habitat that is only in the North American continent? Is that what it means? Why has there not been a single Bigfoot sighting in Hawaii? If it's part of the imagination, if it can be a tulpa, a thought form, well, that kind of lends it to the real animal story. But then people will say that's not necessarily evidence of anything, that it could be a real animal or not. But I find that to be interesting, and that could be the key to unlock a lot of mysteries. With it. Why not in Hawaii?
Yeah, their dimension could be like the upside down, still geographically the same, just can't cross that ocean.
Yeah. So,
I bet Hawaii's got cryptids though. They got plenty.
Yeah. They have legends. There's the Menehune, little people and stuff like that. Yeah. But
Full House.
No big hairy ape creature like Bigfoot, and no legends of that. So, interesting.
For some reason, I thought they had actually had one in Hawaii, but I do hear a lot of times they don't have one in BFRO. I'd have to look. Wouldn't shock me if somebody saw something. Could just be Maui. Could be but then you got it's on every continent. I don't know about Antarctica. There's nobody there to see anything on Antarctica.
If Antarctica is a real continent.
Is it even real? I mean, I've never seen it.
That's a whole other thing, right?
Oh yeah. We could go down that rabbit hole right now. I don't even care. I don't know anything about Antarctica. I mean, I like to pretend that some stuff, the scientists are telling me the stuff that's real, but you never know. I mean, they've kept stuff secret before.
Right. You can't go down there unless you're part of some tour that's highly monitored or part of an official scientific expedition. You just can't take a plane down there or even a boat on your own. And so what does that tell you right there?
Yeah, like why is it roped off like some special, even though there's nothing there. And why is it so special? You can't buy land. You can't get 10 acres in Antarctica.
And the whole Antarctic Treaty, I think, was in 1957 or 1958. It was the late 50s, in the height of the Cold War. What did we care at that time about the environment, of about preservation, all of that stuff. It seems like the whole Antarctic Treaty was under
Mhm.
false pretenses. So I don't know.
Seems like one of those like Megatron thing like was in the Transformers. They had him down in Antarctica, and that was the case. That was the reason they had the treaty because they found him. He came to Earth. That's where he was frozen. I mean, it could
Well,
be something not Megatron, but something similar, some kind of
well, then
crazy phenomenon.
people, there's theories about Nazi bases and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
The Third Reich is still, operating from New Schwabenland or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of different things. It's fun to look at this stuff, isn't it? I mean,
Oh yeah,
that's why we have our shows because we just love this stuff.
I
So,
watch I watch documentaries similar to that every freaking day, going to sleep. My daughter calls it watching Bigfoot, even if it's about like Nazis coming to Argentina. Can we watch Big? Because it's got that documentary feel. She's 4. She thinks they're all she thinks they're all a Bigfoot documentary. But I think that me living where I do in Huntsville, where they brought the Nazis, I think that the Third Reich probably carried on in some form. Like I think Germany lost, the Nazis won. The Nazis carried on. They kind of just attached like a cancer. Here they are. And plus, I don't know if it has anything to do with them, but here, they tore down all the Confederate statues or made a move or did something. But in Huntsville, they walked past 3 buildings named after Nazis to tear those statues down.
jeez.
Yeah. And people like, what? I said, yeah, there's a whole complex named after Nazis. And they walked past it protesting a Confederate statue. Like, that tells you what kind of sheep they are.
I thought that I came face to face with a Nazi in the jungles of Central America,
Really? What year?
1998. Now, that's
Oh,
plausible. That person
yeah.
is most likely not alive right now. Okay, because that was 26 years ago. And here's the story in brief. I volunteered because I was looking into getting a PhD in anthropology with a concentration in archaeology. So I was taking some classes and I went on a volunteer dig in Belize, which was former British Honduras. And the site I was working on was called Blue Creek, and it was about a mile from the Mexican border, and it was in the deep jungle. Okay, and on this expedition, the washerwoman and the cook was a Mennonite lady because there was a Mennonite community in the area that had left
Mhm.
Canada. The Mennonites left Canada in the 1950s and settled in this backwater of the British Empire, British Honduras, in the middle of the jungle. They, escaped Canada. They wanted to get away. So they went down there. And so there's a little Mennonite community there. So I was traveling in this pickup truck, in the back of a pickup truck, just like back home in New Mexico.
Mhm.
And we were picking up some laborers from the local village. They're mostly Maya people to go to the dig. And we were going on these lumpy roads, this beat up pickup. And we passed this place that was overgrown. There was a compound recessed away from this lumpy dirt road, okay, in the jungle. It was overgrown. There was a big wall. And I said, who lives there? I said to Ricky. I remember the guy who was on the dig with us,
Mhm.
Ricky, the local. And I said, who lives there? And he said, oh, the old German. El Alemán, the old German. And I said, oh, is he a Mennonite? And then he said, no, he came here before the Mennonites. Oh, well, okay. The Mennonites came in the mid-50s. So if he came before the Mennonites, that would place him coming at a very curious time.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so I said, do you ever see him? Whatever. And then he said, well, he usually goes to the Blue Creek Fair. He rarely goes out in public. Sometimes he goes to the market. And the little Mennonite community was called Blue Creek. And it looked like a piece of rural Pennsylvania in the middle of the jungle. And it was funny because all the meals that we were cooked because the cook was Mennonite, the washerwoman, like I said, was all heavy sausages and things. You know, it was like
Mhm.
jerks in the middle of the Central American jungle. So anyway, I went to this Blue Creek Fair, and the ladies had their pies out and all of this stuff, and I made eye contact with this old German, and he looked like he was in his late 70s, very clean cut, white hair parted on the side, very clean cut older man. He must have been late 70s, early 80s.
Mhm.
I made eye contact with him. I was curious about him. I didn't go up and talk to him, but to this day, 26 years later, I wonder if I looked into the eyes of a former Nazi, or did he move away to the jungle because his whole family got killed, or
Mhm.
in the bombing of Dresden or something like that. I don't know what the guy's story was, but it was a
Yeah.
little bit curious to me why that person would be there before the Mennonites, when it was even more out of the way than it was in 1998 or the 50s. So
That would
yeah,
have put that
I
would
would,
have put his that would have put his birthday around World War One,
yeah.
which would have made him about 20 in the 40s. Ooh.
So it was perfect. Yeah, I did that math.
Did he have a scar? Did he have a scar?
You know, no, the guy was, like I said, he was very clean cut.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he had white hair. He had pretty much all of his hair, white hair parted on the side. He had blue eyes. Looked like a respectable older gentleman in the middle of this jungle. Like I said, even in 1998, that place was
Mm-hmm.
very remote. And
Yeah.
the Mennonites went there in the 50s, and they brought all their farm equipment and all of this stuff. But before the Mennonites got there, there was just the little Maya village where we had picked up the laborers. There was nothing there. So I don't know. I wish I knew the story, and I wish what happened with that compound, because the guy is obviously gone now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if he was in his late 70s, in the late 90s,
Oh yeah.
there's no way he's still alive.
Like 120 now.
Yeah, what happened to that compound? It was really overgrown, and you know, nobody didn't see. I didn't know if anyone was even living in there, but I couldn't really see beyond the walls. So
What
I
country
wonder.
was that in?
It was Belize, and it was. If you look on a place, the Mennonite town was called Blue Creek, and the ruins were right outside the little tiny town. And I believe they're still calling the ruins Blue Creek. And it's near the Mexican town of La Union. That was the closest other bigger town, I guess.
So it's right
But
there on the border then.
yes.
Ooh.
And yeah, so that was an interesting experience. I thought, I was actually participating on a Maya dig in Central America. So yeah, I wanted to get experience.
That's a claim to fame there. I mean, you see something, you're like, man, what was that? And you think about it years later.
And these Maya, it was interesting. The Mennonites would come into the camp, and they would, like, especially the younger kids, they would come into the camp showing us stuff that they found on their property, like intact bowls that were 1,200, 1,300 years old, sculptures, all of these different things that they were just digging up on their property. So there's still a lot, even now in 2024, there's still a lot that can be discovered down there, because it was very highly populated, 1,200, 1,500 years ago. There were a lot of people there. There were a lot of settlements. And at the top, there was a pyramid at Blue Creek. And if you climbed to the top of that pyramid, you could see that there were other buildings far off in Mexico, and also in the interior of Belize. You could see the tops of buildings and an endless sea of jungle. So there were still other ruins that they need to explore.
Oh, here's the pyramid. Oh, looks like some of the mounds we have around here. Blue Creek Cave.
Actually pulling up pictures of Blue Creek.
Mhm.
I never even, you know what? I have not been curious since then to look that up online. So
that's what I do. I dig. I probably found a picture of your friend Han somewhere on here. Once welcome to Honduras. See, there's a
yeah. How funny. And then they named a courtyard in that ruins complex for a guy named Bill Welker. I can't see what's on your screen, but if you can see, there could be something called the Welker Courtyard. I don't know.
look it up.
Let's see.
Welker Courtyard.
I think so. I think that's what they were gonna. I don't know.
Is that how you spell it?
Welker, yeah, Welker. Or it could be Welker Plaza or something. If you put just Welker in there, let's see what it pulls up.
A lot of Blue Creek.
Yeah, so because they named a plaza, maybe on that map, there's a map right there, yeah. There is a plaza or an open area that they have a Wikipedia page. Gosh, I'm trying to look, ever since that dig, I really haven't followed up because it was such it was a small and obscure site. I didn't think that it would have a Wikipedia page. And I see there's like water there. We used to go swimming in that place. That was like our shower, that was our bathing. We'd go there, we would swim there. But anyway, yeah, so the reason why I mentioned Welker is because a guy died while I was there. He went off into the jungle and he tripped on a log that was full of killer bees or, full of bees. I don't know if they were killer bees. I think they were. They said Africanized bees or whatever. And they stung him and he died. And he was out by himself. And I remember talking to him because at that time I lived in Phoenix and he was from Scottsdale, which is a suburb of Phoenix. And I brought a Phoenix newspaper, the Arizona Republic. And he was like, oh, a newspaper. I've been down here for 2 months, whatever. And so I was talking to him. And then one day I saw him wander off into the jungle. And I said, do you go off and do that on your own? And he said, yeah, I have a compass and all that. I said, you don't have a radio? No one here has radios. What? And of course there were no cell phones or anything like that. And he said, oh, I've been a tracker in the woods in Oregon and all of this stuff. He was like search and rescue or something. I don't know what his story was. But to him, it was no big deal. But what happened is he went missing, and then we organized search parties to find him. And then he was barely alive when people got to him. And he had tripped over a hollow log and got stung by all these bees. And he was still barely alive when they got to him, but then he died before they got him back to camp.
Man, that was right after the killer bee scare kicked up too. The Africanized bees.
That was just so strange, man. It was like someone died. This expedition, and it was. And I was in a cabana with a 17-year-old boy. They had put me together with this teenage kid whose aunt was a teacher at the school that was sponsoring at the university. She was a lecturer at the university who was sponsoring the dig. And he went as a volunteer, and they put me in the same cabana with this kid. It was interesting. Just that whole experience. We were all so cut off from the world, and it's hard to imagine that sort of thing now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there
Yeah.
was nothing. We didn't even in the weeks I was down there. We didn't even see an airplane in the sky the whole time. It was so remote.
Wow. Yeah. Usually you see those.
And
It's like those African tribes.
no chemtrails, okay? So
Oh,
anyone who wants to say anything about that. But
this took a turn.
no chemtrails to wrap it up to the paranormal and stuff. Yeah, so that was a trip. And yeah, so I do have experience on an archaeological dig. It was quite interesting.
I figured you've been on a few, haven't you? I mean, you talked about being in the Maracuna de Brazil, things like the American town down there in Brazil.
Oh well, no, that wasn't in connection with an archaeological dig.
Oh, okay.
I was down in Brazil. I was working there. I was working for a big American corporation that will remain nameless. And, they transferred me to their headquarters in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And so on the weekend, I would travel all over the place. And one of the places I went to was Americana, which was
that's what it was.
It was founded by Confederates.
Mm-hmm. They had the flag everywhere.
Yeah. I didn't tell you this before, I don't think. And I was thinking about it this morning because I knew I was going to be on your show. I was probably 20.
Keep talking. I'm going to turn my camera off a second.
I was 20 years old and I went down to Mazatlan. And so I was there on the beach and I was with a friend and we had taken buses all the way, down through Mexico from El Paso. So we went down through the center of the country, and then we ended up in Mazatlan. And so I hope you're there, but I know you turned off the camera, but I guess I'll wait for you to come back, and then I will get to the punchline. But for anyone who has traveled in Mexico, the best way to go is by the bus system. It's better than flying. So anyway,
hey, I'm listening. I had to run to the restroom while you were telling a long story. I had too much coffee. You said, I hope you're there. I'm like, oh God, this is going south.
No, so
fourth wall break.
I'll leave the punchline for now. So we were in Mazatlan. I was with a friend, and we were traveling by bus all the way through Mexico. We're in Mazatlan. There are a lot of people there, and there was a Confederate flag in the sand. And like, what's this Confederate flag? And there was this big blonde guy, kind of like with a big belly, laying down and stuff. And I was with my friend and I said, look, there's a Confederate flag. And then he perked up. And then I said, oh, is this your flag? And then he said, yeah, I'm from Alabama and I take a piece of Dixie wherever I go.
I know that guy.
Yeah, so
that checks out.
That's why there was a Confederate flag on the beach in Mazatlan.
Take a piece of Dixie. Yep. And God knows which end Alabama he's from.
But back to you said about Americana in Belize also, there was a colony when it was British Honduras of the same sort of thing where Southerners left the South and went down there because slavery was still legal. Or in the case of Belize, slavery was illegal, but they still brought their slaves in the jungle to work sugar plantations because the British government, it was a backwater. So they didn't even know what was going on, or they looked the other way. So a group of Confederates also not only went to Brazil, but they also went to British Honduras. And I went to a ruin of a sugar plantation from people. I think they were from Mississippi who settled down and started a sugar plantation. And I went through.
Wendell said he's my cousin. It could be your cousin too, Wendell. You're from Alabama.
A little piece of Dixie, wherever.
Know that. Could have been me. I don't know. I've never been there. There was a time when I was kind of like that, but
Well, there's nothing wrong with being proud of it. I mean, we're told now that it's not a good thing, but
you can't have any history now.
What?
You can't have any history now. No heritage.
Right? Yeah. It's pretty bad, but oh well.
It kind of makes me wonder, with the Americuna and what you were talking about in, what'd you say it was in Belize? Is that where it was? You just said?
Americana, that city, was in the state of Sao Paulo in Brazil. But
yeah,
then
what's the second one?
That one was in Belize, which was at the time British Honduras, and they had really weird kind of boundaries that were not very well defined. And there was a sugar cane plantation that the guy from the south took his slaves and set up shop down there. So,
I was just wondering maybe if there was like a local African population there from that, kind of like we are in the South here. They all,
you know what? Probably they probably blended in with the people there.
Yeah,
the coast of Belize is very black because it's Caribbean. It's on the Caribbean coast, and the British who were there doing logging mostly, they had slaves and workers from the other Caribbean colonies, like St. Vincent or Trinidad or Barbados or whatever. And so the coast of Belize is very black. Then you go into the interior and it becomes more Maya, becomes more native. And then near the north, in the northwestern part of Belize, where I was, it's very Mexican. But they call themselves the Spanish Españoles. And but they're refugees from the caste wars. There were wars fought in the Yucatan Peninsula, and there were refugees from those wars in the middle of the 1900s. And then people from Mexico crossed over into British Honduras. So, yeah, if you go into Western Belize, especially Northwestern, they all speak Spanish. But then the rest of the country, it's English. And then you have a couple Mennonite where they speak the older form of German. So
that's why everybody wants to move to Belize now, because half of it speaks English.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically the only English-speaking country in Central America. The coastal islands off the north coast of Honduras, called the Bay Islands, they speak English there because they're the same. They're escaped slaves and descendants of English pirates who live on those islands. And the same with Belize. They're descendants of English pirates and escaped slaves. And
pirates?
Yeah, pirates.
Wow, like actual pirates.
Yeah, British buccaneers, English pirates.
Yeah, the privateers. That's something. Whenever that Jack Sparrow, Pirates of the Caribbean, whenever that kicked off and it became like the specials all those channels always had, that was interesting because I wondered how fake, what we know about pirates are, but the real part of it's wild how they had enough gold to pay for their burial and they all had the same striped shirt for some reason. I don't know what that's about, but it could be just anybody.
So the country of Belize is very interesting. I mean, and it has a really deep history because, the border is artificial between Mexico and Guatemala. That was all ancient Maya territory. So there's still a lot of ruins in those jungles. I mean, like I said, I climbed to the top of that pyramid and you could see buildings poking through the jungle that had not been mapped and not been explored except for by looters. You know, most of those sites are looted by people.
I bet it's not much different today, as far as the jungle goes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they. People always talk about deforestation and all that stuff. I've been to the Amazon. There's no way we're gonna cut down that forest. I flew over there, and when I lived in Brazil, you know, there's a city in the jungle on the Amazon called Manaus that has over 1 million people. And I remember, you know, I was on the plane flying down into that city, and I was like, "Where's the city?" Because it was jungle, 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 and they tried to, you know, they tried to beat back the jungle from like engulfing the airport. It grows so fast and it's crazy. Yeah, there it is, Manaus. And then up that river right there, the river that's black, is called the Rio Negro. Okay, so the Black River, Rio Negro. I went up there, right where your cursor is, right there. Yeah, right up that river, and I went fishing for piranhas. That was fun. And then we went also. I went with like 4 people from my office in Sao Paulo. We had a long weekend because it was Brazilian Independence Day. And we went up into the jungle. And so we went fishing for piranhas in that river. And then also we went alligator hunting at night. That was
At night.
I did not fire any gun. I didn't do anything like that. We went with locals who, it was just bizarre. Let me tell you, they would grab they were small alligators. I guess they called them caiman. So
the caiman alligators.
I think so, but that's Portuguese caiman. I don't know if it referred to a specific species or what. But yeah, we went up that Black River. They call it the Black River, Rio Negro.
Amazon's wild, man. They got dolphins in there, white dolphins.
I saw them, and that the Brazilians, the Portuguese called that river the Rio Mar, which means the river sea, because it is so wide. Like right where Manaus is, it is just crazy wide. You can barely see across it. It's just amazing. And you know, you're talking about, we were talking about academics and all this stuff. There's no way you can cut that forest down. There's, you know, fine, there's been some parts of Brazil that have been deforested, but that it's just a monster. There is no way that that entire forest is going to get cut down. It grows back.
I feel like
fast.
Like what I know about Alabama forest, they come back in like a year and a half. Like the Smokies burned down and they can't tell it. I can't imagine something that big with all those vines and stuff.
It's crazy. So yeah, that's exactly where I went. That is funny. You pulled that right up.
Well, I had it pulled out like this, looking at the borders, and you said Manaus, and there it is. And I was like, what?
And then if you go down to the southeast, then you go down to the biggest city in the Western Hemisphere, which is Sao Paulo. If you go down to the coast, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep down more, down more, down more, down more. Right there, Sao Paulo. Stop.
Ooh.
Right up there near the top. There you go.
That's the biggest city in the Western Hemisphere?
Yeah, now it is. It surpassed Mexico City. Yeah. That's where
Mexico City was once? Whoa.
Oh yeah, because it was over 20 million people. When I lived in Mexico City, it was 20 million people. And Sao Paulo was like 16 million, but now Sao Paulo has surpassed Mexico City. So, and I see somebody saying, do they have Bigfoot? As far as I know, in Brazil, there isn't a Bigfoot creature, but I haven't looked into it that much.
I bet they got something. I bet they got a cryptid or two.
There probably is something. I'm sure there is. I haven't heard of anything like a North American type Bigfoot.
I want to know what the conquistadors thought about those piranhas. and possibly the white dolphins, but piranhas more specifically. Can you imagine just going over there and they're just coming from Borneo, Spain, and all of a sudden there's a fish the size of your hand that just destroys entire cattle?
And you know what? It's true. It's not a myth, and it's not something from movies or whatever, because it's really true what happens. We would take chunks of meat and, cast the line, and then the water would bubble. It was freaky. It was just like a movie, just like you would see in a movie. That would bubble, and then you would, pull. Hopefully, you would catch a fish. I didn't catch many, but some people in my boat got really lucky with catching fish, and then they eat them. We have that for dinner that night, so you can eat them.
They can't be bad. They're just like the size of a bluegill.
Yeah, it was good. And then the way they prepared it and stuff, it was good. It's a good dinner. So
I know the platypus was a cryptid. The kangaroo was a cryptid.
big example of this is the panda bear, right?
Yeah, the panda bear. Who's the first man to come back and say, I got a raccoon looking bear over there? I'm like, what? You're crazy. Where's that sugar and spice that you're supposed to get?
Yeah, so we don't know. I mean, in that jungle that you just panned out from, where Manaus was, there was that city has 1 million people, and you can only access it by air, like I did, yeah, or from the river. And
1 million people.
I mean, it's right on the edge. It's right on the edge, and it's just amazing because you can go right outside that city, and you're just in endless jungle. Like when we went up the road, or we went up the road. See, I'm saying road because I'm looking at a road. We went up the river, the Rio Negro, and I said, what is north of here? And the guy said, there's nothing between here and the border with Venezuela. I was like, wow. Yeah. Endless jungle. Endless jungle. So
it's like the entire United States just right in there.
It's just huge. So wow. I don't feel worried about the Amazon rainforest completely disappearing because I've been there. And I don't see it happening.
It looks like it's doing pretty well. I wonder, do they have any? This is going to sound very Americana of me, but I wonder if they have any our chain restaurants there. Is there a Chick-fil-A in Manaus?
Well, I was there a long time ago, but there were chains. Yeah. Like when I lived in Sao Paulo, which, like I said, it's the biggest city in Central America. When I lived in Sao Paulo, there was an Arby's that was being built on the corner of where I was living. So there were American chains there at that time. That was 1995. So I'm sure
how they get stuff.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
We had Chick-fil-A, and it's not open on Sundays.
Chick-fil-A
in Manaus, and that's Brazil, isn't it? Man, 1 million people just out there, just chilling.
Yeah, and they used to, farm rubber. That was the big industry there, and then, then the city grew from there, and then transportation along the river. So, yeah.
I bet the food is amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Anytime I get to looking at anything in Central America or Mexico, I just get hungry. I know they got stuff. I can smell the torches from the screen.
And then up the river a little bit, we went to the island of the injured monkeys. And basically what it was, was a wildlife rehabilitation center. And so there were injured tropical animals that were there, like the orange monkeys, the golden lion tamarin, Yeah, they called it the island of the injured monkeys, but there were all different types of wildlife there.
You ever looked into anything about that island off the coast of South America with all the snakes no one can go to? I can't think of what it's called, but it's I need to know more about South America. This place is like, it's the reason that Milena of Avalar was so good. Or what's the one where that kid rode the jaguar? Island South America snakes. Ah, there it is.
Snake Island, where is that?
Yeah, it's
The Galapagos.
no, it's on the east side.
So then it must be Brazil. Somewhere.
It's
Where is it? Snake Island.
that's not it.
So that's
It's literally over here. But like people aren't allowed to go there, and only thing is on there is a giant antenna that they have to service. So they have to take like a team of people and go in like a line and just chopping because it's got venomous snakes everywhere, like 400,000 of them.
Never heard of it before.
Oh my God, what is it called?
I'll have to look it up.
Not Guyana, I'll tell you that.
Culebra Island off the coast of Venezuela, if I remember. Yeah, so there are islands. You're right at Venezuela. There's an island off the coast called Culebra, which means snake. So there's a Culebra Island that is off the coast, if I can remember correctly. So that could be what it is.
It is called.
If you type in Culebra, Cul.
Hang on. I found it.
Culebra. Cul. Oh, that's Ilha de Queimada Grande.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it?
Yep.
That means big burned island. Queimada is burned in Portuguese.
And there's humans aren't allowed to go.
Must be a volcano.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Protect a small island closed to public to protect a large population of rare endangered snakes. And there's like one thing there they have to do. I don't know. I watch stuff. I forget what it says. They have to climb these damn cliffs and everything, and the snakes are poisonous, and they're everywhere. It's like my worst nightmare. Why would that even exist? What is it called? Yeah. Access is available only to Brazilian Navy and selected researchers. Yep. That's it. That's the video there.
I learned something today.
Mm-hmm. My useless pit of knowledge is benefits to somebody, thank God. Well, all right, Robert. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Thanks for coming back on here. This has been a good Sunday night.
We should do it again.
I really should. I'm kind of getting Stella's kind of getting her groove, not getting her groove back, but getting in the groove of things. So I may have more. You know how Rogan has good guests on, but he has like the regulars. I may have more of that going on because I'm starting to really figure out how this stuff goes.
And we can, we can have it more structured too if you want to talk about certain topics and stay to those topics, So if you want to have certain shows where you're devoted to, 3 different things we talk about or something like that, we can do that too.
Yeah, I may go into your repertoire and find some things. So basically, what my show's turning into, show's turning into, yeah. You know how Oprah had like the fighting little people, the women that loved them, and they threw chairs in the first 10 years, and that's how she got her audience. Well, that was me with the crazy, I live with Bigfoot and they pee on my rug people. But now, like, I feel like I'm getting kind of growing a little bit. I'm got 1,000 subs now, plus or minus, and I'm having more anthropologists. I'm having people like you that study things, paleontologists on, and I'm kind of considering like my show is kind of like a graduate program where you learn all the different areas around the central subject. Like, you're a doctor, you have to learn how to statistics. And so I have people that talk about monkeys, and had one guy that his doctoral thesis was on Neanderthal teeth. And that was amazeballs. And like he's like my gold standard now. I'll never achieve that. He's from Winnipeg. He's a doctoral student there. That was a mess. I don't want to go back to the whack jobs anymore. Where's your friend?
No, well, it's good that you have a big variety of people on that.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Cause it's just I want to be nichey, but I don't want to be just pigeonholed to dudes that talk about Bigfoot, because that's not how I started anyway. Like I went all the way in, and now I'm coming back out like blooming, like a phoenix from the ashes.
Right. Yeah.
And so far so good, because the last 6 shows I've done, not counting this one, 4 of them are in my top 10 most popular, the last 6. So I'm doing something right.
Good. Yeah, keep it up. That's, half of the battle is just showing up, right?
Oh yeah, consistency. Eventually everybody else quits.
And sometimes I've felt like quitting. I'm in my 8th year and my sub count isn't 1 million, right? My sub count's like what, 23,000 or something like that. And people,
Right.
you always see these grow gurus online, how to grow your YouTube channel and stuff like that. Oh, you should have 50,000 subs within a year and all of that.
A year.
Like, no, look at me. I'm doing everything that I think is right, and I'm listening to all the advice, and I'm trying my best, and I'm being consistent and everything. I have almost 1,000 shows posted. If you consider, like almost 400 long form shows and almost 600 shorts. So, according to these bro gurus, I should be, north of a couple 100,000, but it's not the case. It doesn't happen to everybody like that. And I think people give up too soon. So
I think they want to be Mr. Beast, and they don't understand that if you're niche, you're not going to get a niche. Is just that it's a niche. There's not 4 billion people in every niche, but
and you know what?
21,000.
And Mr. Beast has 300 people working for him.
Got a team.
I mean, people think, oh, Mr. Beast must have a staff of like 6 people. No, he has 300 people. I saw that on an interview. He was on an interview that I watched because I thought, well, what's his secret or whatever? But he is a tireless worker. He spends like 14 hours a day on his thing, and he has all of these people helping him. So I'm not that way. I have a business. I've owned a business for 25 years, and this is kind of a side gig. So,
Lex Friedman has staff too. He's got like a careers page.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, if you can do that, great. If I could break free from my business and do this full time, I'm sure I could, double my viewership and all of that stuff. But there's only so much time I can devote to Mexico Unexplained.
Yeah. My goal is to get, I've got 2 channels. One's got like 2,500. This one has almost 1,000. And I'm rebooting the other one right now. I've actually shot 2 videos to release in about 3 weeks. And I'm planning on having 2 monetized channels. And I'm going to use that to fund an agent and, lemonade tycoon my ass to the top.
That's what you need to do. And I've toyed with that idea of getting someone representing me and stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm too cheap, I guess.
Well, this is my goal.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I guess the bottom line is I don't want to spend my resources to grow the channel like the way I need it to grow. So I can't complain then, huh?
Yeah, but you got it's your subscriber and base is denser than just frivolous people. Like anybody that subscribes to you subscribes because you earned it. It's not just like, oh, it's a Mr. Beast. He once farted on someone in public. subscribe. It's he has giant hamburgers. It's like this is interesting. It's me. I guess it just means more. That's what I think, because I don't go like, hey, I need 40 more people to be 1,000. Please subscribe here, and they won't ever listen to a damn thing. It doesn't matter. But the people that do click it now, because I don't try to advertise and do that, I think it just it just means more. So I tell myself, so I don't cry at night for not having any subs.
Well, I'll try that too. The next time I'm feeling sad and down, I'll think that way too.
Yeah. I mean, you got specialized user base. You just not just every teenage girl in America. Well, all right, Wendell. Thanks for watching. I think we're down to 3. This has been fun, though. I needed this change of pace. I haven't been doing a lot of lives lately, so I'm kind of getting back in the groove.
Good.
Next week, I have some Bigfoot people on again, so that'll be fun. You can have my Bigfoot cup. I'll choose a.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. What is Wendell? You have to be paying to get a chance to win anything. That's anything. That's a laugh, Wendell. I've got, an agent I priced is like $1,200, and I could afford it just off the top of my head. I mean, I know I could because I don't have any debts right now other than my house, and I'm an IT engineer, but I don't know how. Hey, can I just spend $1,200 a month on an agent for a hobby I have in the back room? So I think if I could fund like half of it, maybe. It sounds, I would, even for 6 months, I could grow it more than fund all of it. I always call it lemonade, roller coaster tycooning it. All right, man. Thanks for coming on. I'll let you go, and we'll go to the outro here. Your website is mexicounexplained.com, and it is in the description. Your YouTube is in the description, and anything else?
Yeah, well, anybody who wants to find me can go to mexicounexplained.com, like you said. That's a good starting point, because I have all the links there, all the links to my social media accounts, the links to the transcripts. Every show, there's a transcript that is free. I don't have any paywalls or anything. So, yeah, just go to mexicounexplained.com and look around and stuff. And then you can always, anybody can contact me through there too. So, yeah, please get in touch with me if you have an interesting story or a legend out of Mexico, and we'll look into it.
And your YouTube, and that is also in the description too. So I got you covered.
Great.
Covered, dog. All right. Give me my theme music. Peace. See you, Robert.
Thanks.
I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it. I didn't believe in it. I never gave it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.